Hear my voice. Hear the voice. Do you hear the voice? Okay. Very good. Very good. I find that reading from Luke very disturbing on several levels. First of all, Lazarus is doing the best that he can do in his life. Right? He's doing the best. And he's carried or comes up to the house of the rich man. Now, the rich man lives in some kind of a gated community. There's some kind of a fence around to keep people like Lazarus out. And Lazarus comes to get a piece of bread. Now, understand that back in that day, there were no napkins. So they would take a piece of bread, they would wipe the grease off of their hands on a piece of bread, and they would throw it out for the dogs to eat. So Lazarus isn't trying to get some great big dinner or something. He's just trying to get a piece of discarded, crummy old bread that they wiped their hands on and threw out. The epitome, to me, of what it is to have nothing. The epitome to me of what it is to be poor. To have no voice, to have no power, to have nothing whatsoever. And to just pray and hope that you will get a scrap of something that will even keep you alive. Now, the rich man lives very extravagantly. He dresses in purple, and purple was a very expensive fabric back then. So there is a thought that he might have been a nobleman or something, that he had all of this wealth. But what does he do with the wealth? What does he do with the wealth? Hoards it. Thank you. He hoards it. He doesn't look out for anybody. He doesn't do anything to help anybody else. He does not look at the world at all through God's eyes. Thank you. He does not see it. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't get it. Now, I have a little bit of a problem with some of what this says. Ordinarily, we think of heaven up here and Hades, if you will, down here. This is somehow on an equal level. And there is some kind of a big pit or something between, so that Father Abraham and Lazarus are on this side, and in this fiery pit thing over here is the rich man. Now, theologically, I have a tremendously difficult problem with that. Father Abraham says, no one can come from here through the pit over to you, and no one can go through the pit over to me. Now, you've heard this from me plenty of times. What is my theology on this? At any moment in time, anyone anywhere can say, I need you, God, right now. I want you, God, right now. I'm sorry for the sins that I have committed. I don't care if I'm in the burning fire. I don't care if I'm in Hades. I don't care where I am. I'm coming to you, and God will say, well, get over here. Right? I do not like the concept that says you are between this pit and you cannot do anything else. No, I do not believe that a God who would send us His only Son and allow that Son to be crucified for us is going to say, once you're there, see you later, sucker. I don't believe it. So I have a problem with that. Now, the first time he ever thinks about somebody else, he thinks about his 5 brothers. Father Abraham. Now, when he says Father Abraham, understand, he's calling on the Jewish tradition. I'm part of the Jewish tradition, is what he's saying. I am one of Abraham's children. I am one of in the descendant line from Abraham. And Abraham kind of says, so what? What does that mean? What did you do? Who did you help? No one. And then Abraham says something that is critically important. He says, if your brothers did not listen, if your brothers did not listen to Moses, remember, Moses is the king of the Jewish people at this time. He is the one that wrote the 613 laws dictated by God or given from God. He is the one that they look to. Moses was the one that led them out of Egypt. That's Moses. Moses is the most important prophet, if you will, that they know. If they will not listen to the prophets and listen to Moses, they won't listen to anybody. They won't listen to anybody. The problem is, how true is that of all of us? When have we not listened to people and later on said, well, that was a mistake not to listen, right? Linda reminds me of that all the time. You don't listen to me. Okay, I get it. But not listening to Moses and the prophets. And then Father Abraham says, so even if I did raise someone from death and send them, they would not listen. It wouldn't make any difference because they're not already listening. You see, one of the biggest questions that we have in our time is, if Jesus were to come back, would we believe it's Jesus? No, we wouldn't. So upset, I get it. No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't believe it. How would we even know? And what would we say? Show us. Give us a miracle. Heal someone. Do something. Right? And what did the people say back then? Show us a miracle. Do something. Right? We're going to be the same way. Because we're not going to be willing to accept. And these people were not willing to accept. And because they didn't listen, their future is sealed. Their future is sealed. What a tremendously sorrowful statement that is. Your future is sealed. My future isn't sealed. Your futures aren't sealed. Right? You're not sealed. They're not even sealed when you die. Right? If God's shoulders are that big, if God is that big and His shoulder is that big and He loves that much, they can't be sealed when you die. Right? Now maybe that's just my thinking because I'm so afraid of death. But I really believe that God's going to say whoever. And C.S. Lewis, who wrote the book The Great Divorce, he's a big-time Christian author. I don't know if any of you ever read him or not, but he wrote The Great Divorce. And in The Great Divorce he says, you know what? There's a bus in heaven, and every day that bus goes down to hell, and every day if you want to get in that bus, you get in that bus, and that bus comes right back up to heaven. And he doesn't describe Hades or hell as fire. What he describes it as is darkness. And it's darkness because there is no love of God. God's love is not there, and it is dark. And those who do not want to come to God continue to move further and further and further back into the darkness. See, that's the kind of hell that I imagine. It isn't fire and brimstone. It isn't, oh my gosh, I'm going to burn forever. It's, I'm going to be in darkness forever because I don't have the love of God. Right? What a dark place to be at. I do not want to be in that place. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Now, I'm sure right now there's 1,000 other people out there somewhere saying, boy, are you wrong? You're going to be surprised. Yeah, well, I can be very surprised, I'm sure. But in my theology, I see it as a place where there's no love. Right? And I do not want to be in a place where there is no love. Where God's love is not existent. I don't even want to be in that place. Yeah. Yeah. Now you've got to love Jeremiah. Jeremiah is the biggest optimist this side of history. Jerusalem is doomed. You are doomed. God is going to pronounce judgment on you. Can you just see this guy with a beard? God is going to pronounce judgment on you. Okay. But then God speaks to Jeremiah. And God says to Jeremiah, if you read between the lines, stop it, there's still hope. There's still hope for the people. Right? So God, first of all, Jeremiah is talking about what God is telling him that is going to happen to the king. And Ruth, you did a wonderful job. I cannot do this without my pen. Zedekiah. Could have just been Sam. King Sam. What's his name? Thank you, Lord. Thank you. King, what's his name? Thank you. And he says King Zedekiah is going to lose in the battle no matter what he does. And then I will deal with him. The Babylonians will take him to Babylonia, and I will deal with him later. Well, you can imagine how upset the king becomes when he hears this. And so he confines he confines Jeremiah to the royal courtyard in the royal palace and won't let him leave. Now, remember I said they were always worried about the foe from the north because they're between the desert and the Mediterranean. Attacking armies have to come from the north. Well, the Egyptians are smarter than that. They came from the south. But they're no match for the army of the Babylonians. They're going to get slaughtered. So they retreat. In the meantime, Jeremiah tries to leave Jerusalem. He tries to go. And they stop him. And they accuse him of treason. You have gone against the king. It is treason. And God says to Jeremiah, you know what? Your cousin is going to come and offer you a field to buy. And Jeremiah probably says, fine, what am I going to do with a field? So his cousin comes and he offers him the field, and Jeremiah thinks back to what God has said, and so he buys the field for 17 pieces of silver. Even though he's never going to see the field, he buys it anyway. The right of redemption, they called this. You had first rights as the nearest living relative to buy the property so it didn't get sold off to creditors or anything else. You had the right of redemption. He takes the right of redemption, he buys the field. Now, why is that important? What's the real point of all of this story of Jeremiah? God says that eventually the land, the fields, the vineyards will be sold again. In other words, eventually the people are going to come back and they're going to be able to start over. It is not lost. All is not lost. Even though they will go into the captivity of the Babylonians and be in exile for 50 years, all is not lost. Because someday, when they come back, they will be able to buy the fields and the vineyards. They will be able to start over. And we see that to be the case. They were in captivity for
70.
50 years, thank you.
70.
70, thank you. Do I hear 80? 50.
70 years.
Okay, but they were in exile. And then the Persians come in, they beat the Babylonians, and the king of Persia says, no, I don't believe in keeping people outside their land. They're allowed to return home, and eventually they rebuilt the temple and everything. So God's prophecy does in fact come true. They do return home. But the point of it is that God never gives up on the people. They don't repent, they don't stop sinning. But God never gives up on the people. God never gives up on us. That's the point. How much more important can it be than that? No matter where we are, no matter what we do, God does not give up on us. Holy mackerel. Holy Christmas. Whatever your expression is. What an amazing statement. God never gives up on us. Never. Even after we're gone, I will argue and argue that God never gives up on us. At any point, we can always go back to God. At any point. What an amazing God we have.
Amen.
I just can't even believe it. The more I read, the more I study, the more I preach, the more amazed I am at God and who God is and what kind of love God has for us. What an amazing God. A God that loves us so much that He gives us shadow. The mighty shadow. And all the other critters of the world. And all the pets and all the deers and all of the elk and everything else. What an amazing God. Amen.
Amen.
Our hymn is number 622, Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah. 622. That on Halloween night, the 31st, we have trunk or treat here. We are participating this year in the trunk or treat. So if you wish to dress up in a costume and stand by your car, please do so. But please come and participate in the trunk or treat. We're very excited. Now go, surrounded by the power of the Holy One.
May we experience life that is really life.
And let the people say, Amen.
Very well.
Hey, good morning, sir.